During Square Enix's E3 conference, they unveiled one of the worst trailers I've ever seen for Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin.
I'm here to kill Chaos. Looks like Chaos has been waiting for us. I only know one thing. I want to kill Chaos. 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 Chaos.
They also revealed that a demo was available to download on the PlayStation Store, but this didn't go so well as it was broken due to corrupted files, which Square fixed a few days later. Needless to say, this has been a very rocky beginning for this game, and unfortunately the demo has done very little to change my mind, and I don't think I'm alone in that view. So what is Stranger of Paradise? Why is this name so atrocious, and should you keep an eye out for this in the future? Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin is an action role-playing game, which these days could almost mean just about anything. So to be more blunt, this is a Souls-like. This is being developed by Team Ninja, who recently made the critically acclaimed Nioh 1 and 2, which I have a lot of issues with, but we'll come back to that later, and also developed the Ninja Gaiden franchise. It's also being published by Square Enix and currently has a release window of 2022 for all consoles and PC. This demo gives you access to one area, which is the same location shown off in the trailer, one boss who was also present in the trailer, a few different types of weapons and abilities. If you've played Nioh or any Souls-like for that matter, you're going to feel right at home and understand the overall structure. You have your bonfires that act like a checkpoint, restoring all of your health and consumables but also respawning all of the enemies you've killed. Dying will send you back to the last bonfire you've rested at, and you'll drop all of your currency you've gained thus far. In this, it's your MP gauge that quickly expands by killing enemies using the break mechanic. Generic stats like strength, stamina, intellect, and so on are here, and wearing better gear will increase these. You can change the armor you wear, equip different weapons, and also change classes, which alters what abilities you can use. As you can see, Stranger of Paradise is a pretty formulaic Souls-like, and unfortunately it does very little to differentiate itself from others. Even with the ability system in play here and class systems, it just feels a little generic. But let's change the topic for a minute and talk about all the things that I really did not like, and yeah, it's a whole bunch of things. What I'm sure is on everybody's mind right now is the visuals. You know, if this was released 10 years ago, I'm almost positive it still would have been received poorly. Textures are flat and show very little detail. Colours are extremely muted and range from brown to green. The lighting looks awful and many corners tend to have large chunks of black. Bloom is everywhere and anywhere, making the environment look foggy and washed out. Rooms tend to be large in scale but barren and hollow. I really wouldn't mind the awful visuals that much if it meant the frame rate and technical performance was impressive, but it's not. Visual pop-in is everywhere from grass loading in on the ground, debris looking blocky at the beginning of cutscenes, and worst of all is the frame rate. This is a demo so it will hopefully improve at launch, but in its current state the frame rate swings wildly between playable and jittery, which is one of the worst things that can happen to a game centered around quick reflexes and split-second decision making. The art design is uninspired and boring, leveraging none of the talent shown off in Nioh or the quality of environments and assets in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Character models look like they've been ripped straight out of a free-to-play mobile game, with the player character being the worst of them all. Next is the audio, and for the most part it's fine. Attacks sound meaty and the score goes pretty hard, but they've done the same thing FF7 Remake did, which is having the battle music start and stop abruptly when entering combat, and having a 30-second exploration track looping when out of combat. It's a hard thing to explain, but once you notice it, you won't be able to get your mind off it. Level design has taken a note out of Nioh's worst, having a mixture of obvious shortcuts, linear hallways, and arbitrary blockages. There's little to no exploration to be done here. You either have the correct path forward, or a side path that always has a dead end and never connects back up to the rest of the level. Okay, AI teammates. These two are really, really bad, like abysmally bad. If you were to hand me a checklist of what makes a bad AI partner, I would tick every single box straight away. They have poor targeting programming. They don't resurrect each other, low damage output, and never taking aggro are a small list of issues with these two. Why do we even have AI partners? This is a Souls-like and it's trying to be challenging, so if the AI was programmed properly, it would make it easier. Their damage tends to be around 40 per hit, whereas I'm doing well over 200, so they're useless for killing targets. You can res them when they get downed, but they can't resurrect you, and enemies never seem to prioritize them in combat. Contextually, they're probably here for story reasons, but they have no personality and they're so lifeless. So yeah, I told you there was going to be a lot of negative stuff here, and who knows, perhaps a lot of this will be fixed by launch, but I certainly have my reservations about that. Luckily, almost none of what I've mentioned has to do with combat and what the player character has available to them. Gameplay here is pretty sweet, it's flashy, it's fast paced, and most importantly, it feels great to control and play. Team Ninja has always made action games, and they really know what they're doing. Attacks and animations are succinct, giving combat a great feel to it, and if you enjoy the feeling of Nioh, you'll certainly enjoy this. Team Ninja has taken a note out of FromSoft's book once again and added in a break mechanic. It works by depleting your enemy's stamina, opening them up to an instant kill ability. Bosses are also susceptible to this, but they also have multiple phases or health bars, just like Sekiro. But this break gauge is a great addition to combat. Not only does it look impressive and feel satisfying to perform, thanks to Jack instantly cancelling his attack to carry out the instant kill, but it also adds additional build variety by aiming for more stagger damage rather than raw damage output. Speaking of build variety, what is here so far is good. Nioh is known for its vast amount of different builds, and I'm sure this will be no different. Already there's 3 different weapon types, a greatsword, a one-handed axe, and a polearm. To go along with these weapons is a class system which changes your base stats, abilities, and all have their own unique skill trees. And that's all within this short 45-minute demo. Just like in Nioh, you have so many options available to you in combat, and once again the enemy design does little to play around with this. They tend to be basic enemies with few attacks and easy to read telegraphs. If it wasn't for the high damage output these enemies have, there would be almost no challenge here, but admittedly it's still fun to slaughter a whole room of goons and use your abilities. Chaos ? Is the one and only boss in this demo, and he shows some real potential. I really enjoyed the two-phase fight he offers with the inclusion of the break gauge that, like I mentioned earlier, once depleted opens him up for an attack that finishes off his current health bar. Phase 1 is relatively straightforward with his simple 2-hit combo and dash projectile, while Phase 2 is much more demanding and fast-paced with the addition of a few new attacks being thrown at you. I think I died 7 or 8 times to him, and I really needed to learn his attack patterns and moveset to beat him, which is a good thing to see. However, he does reveal a huge issue with how combat is designed. See, you have combat abilities that are triggered by pressing R2 during a combo. These could be a spinning attack, a thrust forward, or leaping into the air and crashing down on your target. Sounds pretty good, right? And yeah, during regular combat versus regular enemies, this is fine. Enemies tend to die by the time you've finished one of these abilities, or they've been staggered, leaving them open to more attacks. But the boss doesn't work like that. He very rarely gets staggered. He has too much health for an ability to finish him off, and during these abilities you're stuck in the animation and cannot cancel them. For a matter of fact, you cannot cancel any attack, so once you've committed to attacking, you have to wait until the animation is finished, or you'll get hit before you can move again. This can make the boss a real slog because once you realize how risky using an ability is, you'll never want to do it. It's far more consistent and viable to just use your regular attacks and combos, which is something I do not like. Team Ninja has created a great set of abilities that couldn't be more unattractive to use during the pinnacle fight. I hope that all didn't sound too much like a laundry list of things I either liked or disliked, but I wanted to make this as wide as possible to get as much feedback out there. Team Ninja are great developers and make great games. Nioh, in my opinion, has a lot of issues, and this is looking like it will follow in the same footsteps of its big brother. I remember playing the betas for Nioh 1 and 2 before launch, and honestly, not a whole lot changed there. Maybe enemy placement was switched up a bit, and balance changes occurred, but general gameplay, map design and graphics were all kept the same. Let's hope more is done to this, because on paper, a Final Fantasy Souls-like sounds incredible. I think that's everything I've got for this video. I know I'm definitely keeping an optimistic eye out for this one, and I think you should too. If you've played the demo, let me know what you thought of it in the comments below, and if you haven't, then let me know if this looks interesting to you or not. That's all for this video, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.